So last chapter you learned about how to use work breakdown structure tasks to decompose your project into a smaller work package. And that helped answer the question about what tasks to do and what resource you need to complete each individual work package and how much money you will need and how much time you will need. However, the work breakdown structure task was not able to answer a specific question, which is which task should be done before or after another task, or can both tasks be complete at the same time? In another word, the arrangement of the logical relationship between the different work breakdown structure tasks. And that's what this chapter is about. How you will be able to reorganize your work breakdown structure tasks in a logical time relationships, and so they can give you a better idea about how to plan for your projects. So let's look at a few techniques that you can apply and learn from these chapters, and then you can apply to your real projects. But before we can do that, first you have to understand some basics. The first basic is about called project networks. For you to create a logical relationship between different work breakdown structure tasks in the project management world, we call it as a project network. A network basically is a flowchart that graphically depicts the sequence, interdependencies, and start and finish time of the project plan activity. So once you know what resource will be going into each task, the next thing is to think about how you can create a network. And so the relationship, the sequence, and the dependencies, and start and finishing time of all the tasks in your projects could be laid out like a project network. Let me show you how it looks like. So this is what we call project network. You always go from left to right, and A meaning the identity of each work breakdown structure task. The small one in the box are basically your work breakdown structure tasks or work package. So here, as you can tell, you have to first finish the task A, and task A, if you look in the bottom, they have more clear explanation, would be the documentation. Once you finish task A, then you have to complete task B and C. And task B is about prototype, and C is about software preliminary. And you really cannot start the final prototype until you finish B and C. You can see that, okay? And then once you finish D, you finish F, and then you finish K, then you finish the entire project. That's what we call the project network diagram. Basically is to put all your work breakdown structure task in a network diagram form from left to right with an arrow sign, and that way you can give your project sponsor and other stakeholders a logical relationship about all the tasks you think they have to be completed in order to complete your projects. So let's understand some basic terms when constructing a project networks. For each box is called activity. For two activity to go to another activity, that's called merge activity. And activity before merge activity called preceding activity. So in another word, merge activity is about activity that have two or more preceding activity on which it depends. The parallel activity are activity that can occur independently and if desired not at the same time. So you look at the chart, the task A and B, they are considered as a parallel activity because they can happen at the same time or not at the same time. The path is a sequence of connected activity or dependent activity. So all the arrows are the path. The critical path is the time you need to complete each task plus the path time, and whatever gives you the longest, the time will be considered the shortest expected time. And then if there's any delay on the critical path, then you will delay the completion of entire projects. So in this chapter, one important concept is called critical path. What you have to do is to look at all activity after you put them in the logical relationship with project network diagram. And you have to look for the longest path, because longest path through the activity networks also represent the shortest expected time in which the entire project can be completed. I will show you how to do it later. But for now, let's continue to have our discussion about some important concept. So activity is called A. Activity A is called burst activity because the activity A has more than one activity immediately following it. So A is more like a bursting. So you call the activity A as a bursting activity. Event is a point in time in which activity is started or completed. Like for instance, your kickoff meeting agenda has been signed off by your project stakeholder and sponsors. There are two approaches to draw the project network diagrams. One is you use the node to depict an activity. Another one is to use arrow as an activity. So you can either use A in the box as activity or use arrow as an activity. In this chapter, we are going to stick with the activity on node, AON, which is used on each node to depict an activity. So there are some basic rules when developing project network diagrams. So here are 7 rules. One is the network always follows from left to right. An activity cannot begin until all preceding connected activity are complete. So they are talking about merge activity. Arrow indicate precedence and flow and can cross over each other. Each activity must have a unique identifier number that's greater than any of its predecessor's activity. Looping is not allowed. It's not like a data flow diagram chart used in the computer science field. You are not allowed to looping. There's no conditional statement. And you always use a common start and stop nodes. So there's only one start and one stop nodes. Okay, so here are a few more examples. And Y and D are preceded by X activity. So X is a burst activity. Here on the top, A is preceded by nothing, so it's a starting node. But B is preceded by A, and C is preceded by B, meaning you have to finish A before you can do B, before you can do C. This is a merge activity for M, meaning you really cannot start the activity M until you finish JKL. The next one here, remember you have a crossover, and for each activity G and AA, they have 2 preceding activities, which are X and Y, meaning you have to finish both activity X and Y before you can do either activity D or AA. So in general, for you to create a network diagram, you would already have the work with unstructured tasks. All the tasks that you have a unique identifier. What you have to do is to discuss among your team members what will be the preceding activity for each work with unstructured task. Once you have the relationship identified, you can put them in the chart, and then you would have a project network diagram.